To live and to be, to simply breathe, and to simply be. I had not known what it meant to be. I had not known what it meant to be gifted. To think of life in the simplest and deepest of levels, oh, the sense it will start to make, and oh, the revelries of mysteries we are to remake. I was coasting along in material, in ego, in facade, unbeknownst to the influence of the eternal, that which will remain when I will not. How free we've become, how lost we became. New York City, Times Square to be exact. My precious red pickup truck lost in an ambiguous parking garage. Our pockets empty, our stomachs as well. We had run away, but we did not sign up for this. My friend and I, drugs we call them. He had never been to the city and hadn't had a chance at many opportunities I had, specifically hierarchically granted. We walked around Times Square, ravaged, and interacted with nothing else left. We found dealers and liars, just searching for something, a piece of truth. We were one with the steaming trash, one with the rats, false peaks and lost hope. We had lost the ticket to the garage. No maps and no phones, no one to help us but our own will to live. The sun was beginning to rise and loopy we were becoming. We could barely walk, my friend and I.
We're in Times Square. We probably don't have no money right now, so there's no way to get back to Cleveland. And it's going on like, I don't know what time it is, but I know it's getting late and it's getting dark outside. So, we either have to sell this fucking Apple device that we stole, or we're not gonna get to Cleveland. We're just gonna be like in New York for the whole week.
And what did we just do? I've already been here 3 times. What are we doing? Let's check it out. What else have we got to lose? Finally, the tears roll in. We find the precious red pickup. This is it, the place we already checked 3 times. Already, the sun now rising. Our bodies so weak, hugs and more tears. We go home. Ashamed and exhausted, we were ready to take our punishment. We had stolen credit cards and our parents' trust. We nearly made it too. But that was not in our plan. We died. That in which we were searching for came hailing at us at the speed of 70 miles an hour. An immovable object meets an unstoppable force. Metal and glass the controls for this unplanned experiment. Yo! Was the final sounds I heard in my previous life, and we're alive! The first sounds of my awakening. In those moments, that first moment, checking our limbs, checking each other. See, the only reason I survived was that I was not wearing my seatbelt. I repeat, I was not wearing my seatbelt. I slid over perfectly. I ended up with drugs on my lap, slid over by the guardians that now control my fate. I was shuffling around in the back seat, putting my camera away, when fate struck the guardrail with a fury. We flipped and we rolled, glass shattering, arms ripping open. I could see my own bicep. Highway goers pulled us out of the car. I screamed for one of them to rip off their shirt and wrap it around my arm. Survival mode. I'm filled with the most ecstatic joy I could never formulate into words proper. I remember the sharp grass I laid upon, tingling all over. I remember their faces, how they said we were the luckiest men alive. The brightest light, the most vivid gleams as the helicopter flies me above. I tap into something beyond, but tangent to my eye, meeting at this single moment but seems as if it could be forever. The ultimate justification, the ultimate understanding, to be. I care not any more of the whys, but rather why not. I am alive. Purpose and action. These derivatives, seemingly too abstract for concrete reality, became my life. I am here for a reason. I am going to figure out how I can purvey my purpose in the most efficient action per my natural, purified, reborn essence. Therefore, I believe that there is nothing beyond myself. In other words, I believe myself, rather the mind, to be infinite. A well of knowledge, of understanding, of empirical and ontological, of mechanical, of mystical, all ascertained in the mind. What I believe is what I will to believe. Shh. I believe that everything that is beyond, to the furthest corners of the galaxies, to the floor we are both rested upon, they are both a manifestation of the mind, and the will to make it forthcoming. The elaborate things beyond, things such as the cosmos, which are beyond our knowledge, is pitted in the subconscious. The purest crystals contained in the deepest caverns of self, the awareness rarely comes, but in rare blips of frequency. When in tune with an objective universal, that which will always remain, such as the tides, the self is brought in front of a mirror in a realm of skewed dimension, where we lose, rather we look beyond our finitude. We can tap into the eternal essence, the plight and might of the gods, that every action one takes is either a step forward or backward towards purity or pollution. The end goal is total divine being, or rather a fulfillment of one's essential will. That every action has an equal and opposite reaction in the external and internal, and that balance must be found between the two. It may be said that these notions err on the side of narcissism, that these goals could never be achievable in this climate today, where others control or decide, but couldn't be further from the truth. Along my travels, I found that it does not take a complete removal, living out in the woods to fulfill this, rather a dutiful work to get away with it. A way to get away, in which the craft is so genuinely unique and benevolent and progressive that others have no choice to accept, rather sit and watch in the glory. As I flew above in that helicopter, I pondered purpose and action, and the control factor lied in the external impact to others besides myself. I realized to encapsulate the eternal will into the purest of action would be to incorporate humans as a whole. The grandest impact would be the most relative, and what is more relative than the totality? Thus I find myself pondering, hypothesizing the requisite action for the natural progression of man, and areas of weakness and subsequent areas of craft where I can inspire change, as well as you. I found the most direct form of expression, language, and studied the historical evolution of thought. I found that for the last 200 years, however, thought and modes of thinking have not evolved quite as they should, and they have been replaced with material. I have built an ardent cynicism towards the vast materialism today, and thus do not believe in materials, for they will not remain. I believe that every man is gifted with an eternal essence that can inspire an impact to this world. I find it hard for laymen to realize, rather actualize himself enough to purvey his truth of expression per his essence. I find it hard for laymen to realize, rather actualize himself enough to purvey his truest of expression per his essence. For the fact that essence is subjective, it does not come in terms of material. Say there is a worker who loves making soccer balls. He loves making the soccer balls not for the same reason the company does, but rather for its form, its smoothness, its perfection. He finds justifications in its craft, whatever it may be. Yet the totalities of these justifications are so difficult to put into concrete terms most of the times. And when responsibility sets in and money must be brought in for others, the essential action in one's craft is lost. Yet I find no better example of justification for our human condition than that of a conversation, derived mainly of questions. For that which is universal, there are no answers. I believe in words, in music, in love, and in friendship. It became clear that everything I was searching for, bound to see, live, and feel, was all right here. All infinities and mysteries available at my discretion, and the great filter of whether we have passed it or not, that civilization is doomed or we are the fighting heroes, matters not, for there is a symphony at play here. Upon the grand stage for us to not only watch but dance and raise our glass and toast to the gifters and the giftees, for the vitality, the webs, and the channels at work beyond the fury that blazes in the question mark, what and why. We flipped and we rolled, and I traveled out of the darkness. I am light. I am beyond light. I am love traveling at speeds no formula could ever contain. I am me, certainly. I am me.